Mission: Infiltrate the FSB, Operation Black Veil. Dikaz Paran 1, the briefing. I was halfway through a rare quiet evening, flipping through the latest photos Sarah sent me, when my phone buzzed with a secure call. It was Lambert. His tone was unusually urgent, even for him. Sam, we've got a problem. Russian FSB. They're running something big, something dangerous. Intel suggests they've developed their own version of the Splinter Cell program. We need you to infiltrate, gather intel, and shut it down. They're calling it Black Veil. The FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service. Their reputation alone told me this wasn't going to be a walk in the park. Lambert laid out the details. This was no ordinary black ops unit. They were using their operatives not just for intelligence gathering, but also for assassination and destabilization missions. If they were even half as effective as I was, we were in serious trouble. We need you to find out who's running this, where they're operating, and, if possible, cripple their operation before they can hit us or any of our allies. I was already packing my gear before the call ended. The mission was clear. I was headed to Moscow. Part 2. Into the Heart of the Beast. Russia is no stranger to harsh environments, and neither am I. After entering Moscow under a false identity, I spent days in the shadows, gathering scraps of information about this so-called Black Veil program. The FSB doesn't play games when it comes to security, but I've always been good at staying invisible. I followed their movements, learned their routines, and eventually found my way to one of their covert training facilities. The facility was hidden deep within an industrial complex, seemingly an old Soviet-era bunker repurposed for modern black ops training. It was the kind of place you don't just walk into, but I had no intention of walking. I got in the same way I always do, through the cracks. I bypassed their electronic security with custom gear Third Echelon had cooked up for me and used the shadows to navigate their compound. Part 3. A Familiar Enemy. Once inside, the first thing I noticed was how similar this operation was to my own training back at Third Echelon. The FSB had modeled their program after ours almost perfectly. They were training elite operatives in stealth, infiltration, hacking, and assassination, just like we did. But there was something darker about this. The brutality of their methods, the complete disregard for civilian lives, was something even I hadn't expected. I made my way through the facility's command center and hacked into their systems. That's when I found what I was looking for, the head of the Black Veil program. His name was Viktor Orlov, a high-ranking FSB officer with a reputation for ruthlessness. Orlov wasn't just running the program, he was its architect. He had studied Third Echelon's methods, adapted them, and twisted them into something more sinister. And worse, his operatives were already deployed on missions worldwide. Missions targeting Western intelligence agencies and key infrastructure. I copied all the data I could find, mission reports, operative dossiers, and locations of their outposts. But I wasn't finished. Lambert's orders were clear. Gather intel, then cripple the operation. I'd found their playbook, but now I had to break their spine. Part 4. Inside the Lion's Den. The next phase was riskier. I had to get inside their primary command center, located deeper underground. The FSB wasn't just going to let me waltz in, but I had a trick up my sleeve. I had stolen a key card from a low-level officer earlier, a mistake they wouldn't realize until it was too late. I entered the command center unnoticed. This was where Orlov worked, where he coordinated their missions. The room was filled with maps, monitors, and security feeds. And sitting at the center of it all was Orlov himself. Watching him work, I saw the cold efficiency that made him so dangerous. He was meticulous, calculating every move of his operatives as if playing a global game of chess. But games like this have weaknesses. While Orlov and his team were focused on their next move, I set up a series of digital backdoors into their systems, allowing Third Echelon to monitor their every action in real time. I also planted a few surprises in their network. viruses that would cripple their communications when activated. It wasn't until I was about to leave that I spotted something unexpected, a list of targets. One of them was Sarah's university. The FSB wasn't just targeting governments or military assets. They were coming for families, for my family. I didn't have time for rage, but it fueled my resolve. I would stop them, and I would make them pay for even thinking about putting her in their crosshairs. Part 5. The Extraction. With the intel secured and the command center compromised, I triggered the viruses remotely. The facility went into chaos as their systems started failing, one by one. Alarms blared, and guards scrambled to lock the place down, but I was already on my way out, slipping through their security layers as they collapsed behind me. As I made my way to the extraction point, Lambert's voice came through my earpiece. "Sam, we've intercepted communications. The FSB's scrambling, but they don't know it's you yet. You need to get out before they realize." "Already ahead of you," I muttered, moving through the darkened corridors. Once I reached the surface, I blended into the chaos of Moscow's streets. The FSB was going to be looking for answers, but they wouldn't find any. By the time they figured out what happened, I'd be long gone, and their Black Veil program would be in ruins. Part 6. Mission accomplished. Back at the safe house, I debriefed Lambert, sending him the data I had collected. He was quiet for a moment as he went through the files, then finally spoke. "This is bigger than we thought. You did good, Sam. We've got enough here to shut down Black Veil for good, but there's one last piece of the puzzle." "What's that?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Orlov. He's still out there." I knew what that meant. My mission wasn't over yet. I'd hit them hard, but Orlov would rebuild if he was given time. I would have to go after him, stop him before he could retaliate, but that was for another day. For now, I had the intel. Third Echelon would deal with the fallout, and I could focus on keeping the people I cared about safe. As I stared out at the Moscow skyline, I knew the game was far from over. But for the moment, I had done my job. I had stayed in the shadows, dismantled their operation, and made sure they wouldn't come near Sarah. Not today. Not ever.